In my past life, my teacher successfully climbed the ladder by currying favor with me, becoming my stepmother. Who would have thought? After marrying my father and becoming pregnant, he conspired with outsiders to poison me and dump my body in the wilderness, just to make the child in her belly the family heir. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn. This time, I won't let her step on me to rise again. I will make her life a living hell, where she begs for death but cannot die. My mother died in childbirth, but my father had no intention of remarrying. It wasn't because he was so loyal to my mother. Theirs was a business marriage with no feelings involved. There was no need for him to stay chaste for her. He simply felt that since he had an heir, a wife was dispensable. At my 1-month celebration, my father announced, in front of all the powerful and wealthy families in New York, that I was the sole heir to the Gold family. My father spoiled me almost to the point where, if I wanted stars, he would throw in the moon. My grandmother treated me as her precious darling, pampering me as I grew up. But as a child, I still longed for maternal love. When I was 5, the family hired a piano teacher named Linda Rose for me. She was gentle and considerate, caring for my well-being, making little me feel a motherly warmth. Who would have guessed? She wanted to gain favor with my father by pleasing me, to become my father's wife. Mrs. Gould, she drugged my father with an aphrodisiac and had a one-night stand with him. She thought my father would marry her because of this, but she miscalculated. My father was a playboy with many lovers outside. He had seen all kinds of women and all kinds of tricks. Linda's clumsy method of climbing the ladder had long been seen through by my father, but he didn't fuss about it, planning to give her a sum of money and dismiss her. Linda was naturally unwilling. She cried to me, saying she would leave me soon. Her meticulous companionship during this time made me depend on her more and more. Couldn't live without her. I refused to let her go. She took the opportunity to beg me to go to my father, asking him to marry her so she could stay with me forever. My brain was not fully developed at the time, and I was bewitched by her, crying and clamoring for her to be my stepmother. My father was unwilling to marry her, but couldn't stand my hunger strike. His heart softened, and he agreed. Linda became Mrs. Gould as she wished, but she only got the marriage certificate with my father, and it wasn't made public. She pretended well, caring for me for 10 years, as if it were one day. I truly treated her as my mother. Later she got pregnant, make the child, and her belly the heir of the Gould family. She deliberately let me eat almonds by mistake. I went into shock, due to a severe allergy. She conspired with outsiders to kidnap me, intending to dump my body in the wilderness. When she had people move me to the trunk, I regained consciousness briefly, and clearly heard her conspiracy with the kidnappers. At this moment, I finally saw her true colors. But I was dying from severe allergies without treatment. Although I knew my father would avenge me, I was still very unwilling to die like this. Fortunately, heaven had mercy and gave me a chance to be reborn and kill my enemy with my own hands. Before dying, a white light flashed before my eyes and I fainted. A pleasant, yet cold male voice came to my ears. Very familiar. I tried to open my eyes and saw my father letting me nestle in his arms, playing with my chubby little hand, looking coldly at Linda, who was kneeling on the ground, speaking casually. I don't know what potion you gave Smoke Yen Yen, making her insist on you being her mother. But since my daughter asked, I will agree. Linda looked embarrassed, trying to argue. Mr. Gould, you must be joking. I sincerely like Miss Smoke. And I sincerely like you, too. How can you say I gave Miss Smoke a potion? My father looked impatient. I don't care if you are sincere. Since you want to be Mrs. Gould so much, I will fulfill your wish. But remember, your alliance in the Gould family will always be Smoke. You said you sincerely like Smoke. So in the future you must do your best to please my daughter. Otherwise I will make you fall from the clouds back into the dust. Manda's face turned slightly pale, and she answered in a low voice yes. I rubbed my eyes at the right time and called out softly, Daddy. Seeing me wake up, my father instantly withdrew his fierce expression, responding gently, Daddy is here. Smoke is awake. Are you hungry? I nodded gently. My father patted my back lightly, stood up holding me, and I was about to walk to the dining room. At this time Linda got up, trying to follow closely and calling my name. Is Smoke hungry? Do you want teacher to feed you? But she was stopped by the butler before taking a few steps. I ignored her, just buried my head and rubbed against my father dependently. My father stopped, looked back at the butler lightly. The butler immediately understood, waved to a few servants standing in the living room. They stepped forward, covered Linda's mouth, and dragged her out. Linda was startled, struggling in panic to make the servants let her go. but to no avail. My family servants were trained, not only stronger than ordinary people, but also skilled in restraining people. Soon, crisp slapping sounds and Linda's screams came faintly. The butler warned her coldly. Unruly thing, daring to act on your own in front of the master, relying on shameless climbing into bed to become the Mrs. Mother, yet daring to overstep. Today I will teach you the rules properly. Make you remember this lesson. Continue hitting harder. Although my father agreed to let her into the Gould family to take care of me, she only occupied a nominal title, actually a more decent nanny. Moreover, Linda bewitched and plotted against me. My father would not let her off lightly. He inevitably had to teach Linda a lesson, to establish authority for me. In my past life, Linda was also slapped by the butler to establish rules. It was precisely because she was deterred by my father's ruthless means that she pretended well for 10 years, until she got pregnant. Thinking she had the confidence to rely on, she couldn't wait to kill me. I sat on the high chair, slowly drinking porridge. My father occasionally picked some dishes for me. I looked up and smiled sweetly at him.
Thank you, Daddy.
My father touched my little head happily. Linda, I'd like to see if you can still be a wealthy lady. Steadily, without my mediation.
This time.
The next day, I woke up in a luxurious princess bed. The room was pink everywhere. Plush toys and Barbie dolls filled the cabinets. It wasn't hard to see that I, the only daughter of the Gould family, was very favored. I stood in front of the mirror. The child in the mirror looked exquisite and lovely. Only her eyes were deep and cold. Linda wanted to be a wealthy lady with everything going her way. I wanted her to look at the immense wealth in front of her, but never be able to touch it, making her a shameful servant for life. Voices came from downstairs. Where is the miss? It was Grandma. Grandma came. The miss is still sleeping upstairs. Hasn't got up yet, the butler replied respectfully. Then let her sleep a bit longer. Children always sleep a lot. Bring that shameless woman who climbed into bed here. I'd like to see what kind of extraordinary good she is. In front of Grandma, I was a perfectly obedient baby. Considerate little cotton padded jacket. I would ask for her opinion in advance, whatever I wanted to do, except for this time. Compared to other spoiled second generations in wealthy families, even if I was a bit arrogant, I appeared obedient and refined. Over time, everyone in the circle knew I was a good child. Anyone would praise the good family style and the child's obedience. Servants from various families passed it on, so that outsiders talked about me with praise, saying why their daughters-in-law didn't give birth to children as easy to raise as me. Grandma listened with a face full of joy, smiling from ear to ear after my mother died in childbirth. She did intend for my father to remarry, but my father had a rebellious nature and didn't listen. He only wanted an heir, gender didn't matter. Moreover, his marriage with my mother was a business alliance. Before they got married, they had already signed an agreement that my mother would only give birth to one child, and, regardless of gender, this child would be the sole heir of the Gould family. No matter how much my grandma wanted my father to remarry, she couldn't help it if he disagreed. Besides, blatantly urging marriage would cause a rift between the Gould family and my maternal grandfather's family. So, even though I was a girl, not a boy, my grandma, as a patriarch who favored boys over girls, might have dissatisfactions. But I was her biological granddaughter and one face for her. She found me pleasing to the eye no matter what. Since I was so favored, Linda suffered. She used dirty means to occupy the position of Mrs. Gould and plotted against a mentally immature 5-year-old girl like me. My grandma would inevitably not recognize her in the wealthy circle, but would torment her severely. In my past life, whenever Grandma wanted to torment Linda, I would always act spoiled to divert her attention, allowing Linda to escape safely many times. But this time she was in for a treat. I changed into a white lace dress, deliberately choosing one that made me look like a porcelain doll. I practiced my smile in the mirror, not the cold sneer of a vengeful woman, but the innocent, toothy grin of a 5-year-old. Smoke, are you ready? The maid asked softly from the doorway.
Yes.
I want to see Grandma. I chirped. I ran downstairs, my footsteps light. The living room atmosphere was heavy enough to crush a grown man. My grandmother, the Iron Lady of the Gould family, sat on the European-style velvet sofa. She held a cane made of rosewood, the handle carved into a lion's head, a fitting symbol for her. Kneeling on the Persian rug in the center of the room was Linda. Her face was swollen, a result of the butler's lesson the previous night. Her hair, usually styled in perfect waves, was messy. She looked pathetic. In my past life, seeing this would have broken my heart. I would have rushed to her, crying, shielding her from Grandma's wrath. Linda saw me on the stairs. Her eyes lit up with a desperate, predatory hope. She shifted her knees, ready to call out to me, to trigger my dependency. Don't look at her, she pleaded silently.
Save me.
I skipped right past her. I ran straight into my grandmother's arms, burying my face in her chest. Grandma, you came to see Smoke. Grandma's stern face instantly melted. She dropped her cane and hugged me tight. Oh, my precious heart. Look at you, you've gotten thinner. Is the kitchen staff slacking off? No, Grandma, I said sweetly, pulling back to look at her. I eat a lot. But I paused, glancing fearfully at Linda, then quickly looking away, as if scared to speak. Grandma caught the look immediately. Her eyes narrowed, sharpening into daggers as she looked at Linda. But what? Did that woman mistreat you? Linda panicked. Madam, I would never. I love Miss Smoke. Shut your mouth. Grandma barked. The authority in her voice made Linda flinch physically. I am speaking to my granddaughter, who gave a servant the right to interrupt. She isn't a servant, Grandma, I whispered, my voice trembling with fake confusion. Daddy said she is Mrs. Gould now. She said she is my mother now. The silence that followed was terrifying. Grandma stood up slowly. She walked over to Linda, looking down at her like she was a roach found in a Michelin star soup. Mrs. Gould. Grandma laughed, a dry, humorless sound. A piano teacher who climbed into my son's bed thinks she can carry the title of the Gould matriarch? Listen to me well. My son may have been bewitched by his daughters pleading to give you a piece of paper, but in this circle, you are nothing. Grandma turned to the butler. From today on, this woman is to follow the rules of a high-level nanny. She does not eat at the main table. She does not attend social functions. And if I see her wearing jewelry from the family vault, I will have her hands chopped off. Linda's face went gray. But Arthur agreed. Arthur is busy making money, Grandma scoffed. I manage the household reputation. You want to be in this house? Fine. You will earn your keep. Now get out of my sight. You smell like desperation. Linda scrambled up, tears streaming down her face, and fled the room. She didn't look back at me. She was too busy trying to survive. I took Grandma's hand. Grandma, can we have blueberry pancakes? Anything for you, my darling, she cooed. As we walked to the dining room, I glanced at the empty spot where Linda had knelt. This is just the appetizer, Linda. The main course hasn't even been served. 2 years passed. To the outside world, Linda Rose lived a Cinderella story. She was the wife of the tycoon Arthur Gould. But inside the manor, she was living in a gilded cage. My father kept his word. He treated her like heir. He gave her a monthly allowance that was generous for a commoner but laughable for a socialite. She couldn't buy Hermes. She couldn't buy respect. I, on the other hand, was the princess. It was my 7th birthday. My father was throwing a gala that would be the talk of New York. This was the night Linda had been waiting for. She believed that if she could just appear by my father's side, the world would have to acknowledge her. A week before the party, Linda came to my room. She brought a dress, a gaudy, bright red sequined thing that looked cheap. Smoke, honey, she said, forcing a smile. Look what I bought for you. Mommy wants us to match at the party. I have a red dress too. We'll look like sisters. In my past life, I wore that dress. I looked like a clown next to the elegant heiresses. Linda had used me to draw attention to herself, wearing a revealing red gown that made the tabloids call her a flaming temptation, while I was mocked for having zero taste. It's beautiful, Linda, I said, touching the scratchy fabric. Call me Mommy, she corrected, her eyes flashing with impatience. Okay, Mommy. I smiled. But Daddy bought me a dress already. It's blue. He said it matches my eyes. Linda's face fell. She couldn't fight my father's choice.
Oh.
Well, that's a shame. I guess I'll wear my red one anyway. Actually, I said, tilting my head innocently. I heard Daddy talking to the stylist. He said he hates the color red. He said it reminds him of cheap streetwalkers. Linda froze. He said that? MHM. He said he likes elegance. Subtle colors. Like pale yellow. I was lying. My father didn't care about colors. But I knew Linda's skin tone was sallow. Pale yellow washed her out, making her look sickly and old. Linda bit her lip. She was desperate to please him. Pale yellow. On the night of the party, the ballroom was filled with diamonds, black ties, and couture gowns. I stood at the top of the stairs holding my father's hand. I wore a custom Armani Jr. midnight blue gown. I looked regal. Then Linda appeared. She was wearing a pale yellow dress that was 2 seasons out of fashion. It clashed horribly with her skin, making her look like she had jaundice. Worse, because she had rushed to find a dress in that specific color within her limited budget, the fit was poor. It bunched at the waist. The room went quiet, then ripples of whispers began. Is that the new wife? My God, did she dress herself in the dark? She looks like a wilted lemon. My father glanced at her, frowning. He didn't say a word, but the disdain in his eyes was loud enough. He turned his back on her and led me down the stairs. "Happy birthday, my star," he announced, ignoring the woman standing awkwardly at the edge of the crowd. Linda tried to approach a group of socialites later. I watched from behind a chocolate fountain.
Mistress Vanderwoodson.
Linda chirped, holding a glass of champagne. "So lovely to see you." Mrs. Vanderwoodson, a woman who could freeze water with a look, scanned Linda up and down. "Do I know you?" "Oh, you're the nanny?" "I am Mrs. Gould," Linda said, her voice shrill.
Oh.
Mrs. Vanderwoodson turned away. "Someone tell Arthur's staff is drinking the vintage champagne." I walked over, slipping my small hand into Linda's cold, trembling one. "Don't worry, Linda," I said loud enough for the group to hear. "Grandma said servants can have fun tonight too. Just don't get drunk, okay? I need you to iron my school uniform for tomorrow." The circle of women chuckled. Linda looked at me, her eyes wide with shock. She wanted to slap me, but she couldn't. I was the heir. She was the joke. She ran out of the hall. I sipped my sparkling juice, savoring the victory. Time moved on. I was 10 years old. Linda realized that charm and beauty would not work.
She needed a blood tie.
She needed a son. In my past life, she had drugged my father again to conceive. This time, she was more cautious. She spent her allowance on fertility doctors and traditional Chinese medicine. She tracked my father's schedule like a spy. My father was rarely home, and when he was, he locked his door. But Linda was tenacious. One rainy night, my father came home drunk after a merger celebration. The butler was off duty. Linda seized her chance. She helped him to his room. She didn't come out until morning. 2 months later, at breakfast, Linda placed a medical report on the table. "Arthur," she said, her voice trembling with genuine excitement.
"I'm pregnant."
My father paused, his fork hovering over his eggs. He looked at the report, then at her. His expression wasn't joy. It was calculation. "Is it mine?" he asked coldly. Linda gasped. "How can you ask that? I haven't left the house in months." "Fine," he said, returning to his food. "Keep it. If it's a boy, he'll get a trust fund. If it's a girl, a dowry." "But the inheritance?" Linda pressed, her greed slipping out. My father slammed his fork down. "Smoke is the heir. That was decided the day she was born. Do not make me repeat myself." Linda went silent, rubbing her flat stomach. I saw the look in her eyes. It was the same look she had in my past life before she killed me. If smoke is gone, my child is the only option. I smiled into my orange juice. Finally, the game begins. The pregnancy was difficult. I made sure of it. I played the piano loudly when she tried to nap. I asked the kitchen to cook dishes with strong smells that triggered her morning sickness. I was never overtly mean, just a clumsy, noisy child. "Oh, sorry, Linda. Did I wake you?" I'd ask, bouncing a basketball in the hallway. "It's fine," she would grit out through clenched teeth. As her belly grew, so did her paranoia. She started firing servants, thinking they were trying to hurt the baby. She refused to eat anything that wasn't prepared in front of her. She thought she was protecting the crown prince. She didn't realize she was isolating herself completely. I turned 11 shortly before Linda's due date. The tension in the house was palpable. Linda was massive, swollen, and irritable. I knew her plan. In the past, she had slipped almond powder into my milk. I was deathly allergic. One afternoon, Linda found me in the library. "Smoke," she said, feigning kindness. "I made you some cookies. Peace offering? I know I've been moody lately." She held out a plate of chocolate chip cookies. They smelled delicious. "Thanks, Linda." I beamed. "I'll eat them while I study." I took the plate. Linda watched me take a bite of one. A slow, triumphant smile spread across her face. She turned and left the room, probably to establish an alibi. She didn't know 2 things. 1, I had undergone desensitization therapy for my allergy over the last 3 years in secret. I could tolerate small amounts now. 2, I hadn't eaten the cookies she gave me. I had palmed it and bitten into a granola bar I had in my sleeve. But I needed a show. 10 minutes later, I threw myself onto the floor. I overturned a chair. I smeared a little mixture of water and flour on my face to mimic pale, clammy skin, and used makeup to create hives. I hit the panic button on my phone, a direct line to my father's security team, which I had secretly set up. "Help. Can't breathe." I wheezed into the phone. Linda rushed in, not to help, but to find me. She screamed, pretending to be horrified. "Oh my God. Smoke. Someone help."
She grabbed me.
"We need to get you to the hospital." This was the deviation. In the past, she bundled me into a car, drove me to the woods, and dumped me. She dragged me toward the back exit, avoiding the main staff. Her grip was iron. "Hold on, honey. Mommy has you." She got me into the trunk of her car. It's faster this way, lay down, she hissed. As the trunk lid closed, I stopped wheezing. I pulled a small voice recorder from my pocket and pressed save. The car drove for 30 minutes. It didn't go to the hospital. It went to the cliffs overlooking the Hudson River. The car stopped. The trunk opened. Linda stood there, the wind whipping her hair. She wasn't panic-stricken anymore. She was smiling. You really were a nuisance, Smoke, she said, struggling to catch her breath due to the pregnancy. 10 years. 10 years of bowing to you. But my son needs room to grow. She reached in to drag my corpse out. I opened my eyes. Is it a son? Did you check? Linda screamed and jumped back, tripping over her own feet. You're alive. I sat up, dusting off my dress. Of course I am. And you're an idiot. Die, she shrieked, lunging at me. She was crazy with hormones and fear. Suddenly, floodlights blinded us. 3 black SUVs surrounded Linda's car. My father stepped out of the center vehicle. He wasn't alone. The police were there. Grandma was there. Linda froze, her hands raised mid-strike. Arthur, she stammered. She had an allergic reaction. I was taking her to get fresh air. My father walked over, his face a mask of absolute fury. He took the recorder from my hand and pressed play. You really were a nuisance, Smoke. My son needs room to grow. Linda's voice echoed in the night air. Fresh air? My father asked, his voice terrifyingly calm. At the cliffs? With my daughter in the trunk? No, it's a misunderstanding. She tricked me. Linda pointed a shaking finger at me. She's a demon. Look at her. She's fine. I'm fine because I knew you were going to kill me, I said coldly, stepping out of the trunk. Just like you plotted with the kidnappers last time. Oh wait, we didn't get to that part in this life. My father signaled the guards. Take her.
No, I'm pregnant.
I'm carrying your heir. Linda screamed as 2 burly men grabbed her arms. Take her to the prison hospital, my father commanded.
She will give birth in chains.
And once the child is born, DNA test it. If it's mine, the Gould family will raise it. If not, it goes to the orphanage. As for her, he looked at her with pure disgust. Attempted murder of a minor.
Kidnapping.
You will never see the sun again. 10 years later, I was 21, the newly appointed CEO of Gould Industries. My father had retired to a private island, happy to let me run the empire. I walked through the corridors of the high-security women's penitentiary. My heels clicked on the concrete floor, a sharp, authoritative sound. The warden led me to a solitary cell. She's in a bad way, Miss Gould. She refuses to speak most days. Just mutters about almonds and pianos. I nodded and signaled him to open the door. Linda sat on a cot. She looked ancient. Her hair was gray and stringy, her teeth rotting. The prison life had not been kind to a woman who once thought she was royalty. She looked up. Her eyes struggled to focus. Smoke. Hello, Linda, I said softly. Did my son become king? She rasped. Is he the heir? I smiled. Oh, the baby? It was a boy. He's 10 now. Her eyes lit up. He must be handsome. He must be rich. Actually, I leaned against the bars. The DNA test showed he was my father's. But my father didn't want a child raised by a murderer's blood. He gave the boy to a nice, middle-class family in Ohio. The boy thinks his parents are a mechanic and a schoolteacher. He has no idea he's a Gould. He will never see a penny of the fortune you killed for. Linda let out a guttural sound, a mixture of a sob and a scream. You stole it. You stole his life. I saved his life. I corrected. I saved him from being raised by you. I reached into my purse and pulled out a photo. It was me, standing on the balcony of the Gould Manor, overlooking the vast estate, wearing a crown of diamonds. I have everything, Linda. The money, the power, the love.
And you?
You have 4 walls and the memory of how close you almost were. I dropped the photo on the floor, just out of her reach. Goodbye, Linda. I won't visit again. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard the scratching of her fingernails on the concrete as she tried to reach the photo, and the wailing sound of a woman who had begged for death, but was forced to live. I walked out into the bright sunlight of New York. My driver opened the door of the Rolls-Royce. Where to, Miss Gould? Home, I said, putting on my sunglasses. I have a business to run. The nightmare was over. I had climbed out of the grave and buried the monster instead. And the view from the top was spectacular.